What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another video on Kaiju No. 8 the game. My name is DFree. We cover all of the Kaiju content as it comes out, whether that's new characters, news, rants, anything that we need to talk about on Kaiju No. 8. Make sure you do subscribe if that sounds good to you. Hit that thumbs up as well if you guys are enjoying the video or plan to enjoy it, because we're just now getting started. It's 6:40 in the morning. I'm freaking incoherent, so it is what it is. All right, so what we have here is a roadmap, as my voice cracks, of the next few weeks of the game. So firstly, a couple of things are happening here. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's being added tonight as part of the update. Other than that, there's a new login bonus that starts tomorrow, so we'll talk about that. But then other than that, we have Fierce Battle on the 5th. We've got a large conquest on the 11th. So what we see here is them attempting to do two things. And then they're even teasing the 20th at the very bottom. We're going to break this down individually, but bear with me. We see them attempting to do a couple of things. Firstly, we see them attempting to add in weekly content, right? That's what they're trying to do here. They're trying to make sure that we have content for the rest of this week, and then midway through next week, and then the following week after that, and then the following week after that, right? So that's pretty cool. Like, that, I think, is one thing that people have been asking for is adding in new stuff weekly specifically, but adding in content in general. Now, I've said this many times, but a big problem with this game's content type is that, firstly, a lot of it is limited. So what happens if you're a new player, right? If you're a brand new player that starts the game tonight, every other limited Fierce Battle area has now dissipated and it's gone. You can't touch that. You wouldn't, for the record, you wouldn't be able to really clear very far anyway, but bear with me. That's all gone. Right, so what do you have to do? Obviously, the main thing is account progression. Some people say they don't have issues with stamina. Most people I hear say that they do. So anyway, that could be something that gatekeeps you from that. In fact, the system is designed to gatekeep you from progressing too fast, along with the leveling of characters and stuff like that. But anyway, and then there's what? Story content? That's it. Like other than account progression, there's that, and then oh my bad, the permanent Fierce Battle too. Which, again, you're not progressing very far into, right? So that's one problem, is that a lot of the content is limited. Secondly, I think that this game not having any PvP or any co-op is a missed opportunity, because they don't have the opportunity to have something that players can fall back on as quote-unquote content. That's why those systems largely exist in a lot of these mobile games, is so you can have that. Now, there's the communal aspect of it, but it's mainly for that reason, as something that you can have as a carrot to chase on a weekly basis, right? Or every other week, that, you know, an off week for their update schedule. Now, I'm not saying I think I want this game to have PvP, but co-op would be pretty cool, right? So those are a couple of things that are kind of happening here. And then lastly, they don't have any sort of long-term replayable content. I've said, like, we need more stuff to do, because what's going to happen here is you see all this stuff. Each time they update the game, players are going to tell me that there's nothing to do within a day. It is what it is. Now, players consume content much faster than it's added is the point, but at some point they're going to have to figure out that balance, I think, with that. But they're attempting, long story short, to do that here. So let's go ahead and get into it more. So tonight we're getting the new chapter update. We knew that was coming. We're getting a new chapter event, which should be the Kikaru Chester thing, but this time it'll be Ostro and I guess Kaiju No. 8, because he's got a pickup gotcha showing up. I don't know. Anyway, it'll be a chapter 5 chapter event. So that's the score battle thing, where you go in there. It's got the 3 different difficulties. You play them each a few different times to get all the mission rewards. You hit a certain score, blah, blah, blah. So that one's going to end for chapter 4. Chapter 5 will launch. So that is technically a form of replayable content. I mean, that's along the path of what I'm talking about, something to grind and actually work in. But it depends on your ease of putting together a team that's able to do it within the allotment too, like, because they have different qualifiers, how much damage you take, how many turns, blah blah. So new gotcha for Ostro. We know that she's coming out. If you want to know what she does, I did do a breakdown video for her, because they told us her entire kit, right? So she seems okay. There's something there that I'm like, that's making me reserve judgment. It feels like something is missing. They need to tell us a little bit more, is what it feels like. So we'll see ultimately what happens with that. But yeah, check out her kit overall. But at the bare minimum, it's cool that she's got a dual character in there. Bako has turns and he does stuff. So that's cool. Kaiju number 8 pickup gotcha. Another thing you could check out is Kaiju number 8's showcase. I did a showcase for him. He is a launch character. He actually still held up pretty good, I'll say, as a single target damage dealer. Now that says nothing for like blast attacking utility or things like that, or whatever content he's specifically in. A lot of his utility is tied into the fact he's able to draw aggro to himself as a tank. He kind of flounders in that. If you take too many hits, he's going to really struggle. He really needs another support next to him to help sustain him anyway, which kind of defeats the purpose. I don't know. It's weird. They're trying to make him this all-in-one character, so I get it. But ultimately, I don't think he's a character that you should be pulling for. Frankly, they've never ran one of these pickup gotchas that I think you should pull on. I don't think they've ever done it. So, yeah, unless you really want Kaiju. But I would contend that if you really want Kaiju, he's in the standard gacha. He's also unfeatured on the Ashuro gacha. You could pull him there. Unless the pickup gachas were guaranteed, I just don't see a reason, right? Anyway, a limited Fierce Battle update is coming through again, so that is to be expected. New training and Uniparts. What new training? I don't know, unless they literally just mean new Uniparts, which could be interesting. So this is just like when Kikuru was added. They added in that armored set to try to give her more damage, I guess. It was a blunt damage up, attack up set that I guess. Like her problem is her attack is just too low. Like it helped her damage wise, but it wasn't a meaningful enough difference for me to leave it on. I actually pulled that set off and put on Spider. I believe Spider, the one that does the effect hit rate, because I valued her more as a defense down debuffer and plate breaker. That's it. That's all she really does, in my opinion. She spams her ultimate, and on all her moves, she throws the defense down, blah, blah, blah. So there's a couple things you can elaborate on. And she is a really good character, right? She's an S-tier character, in my opinion. So out of a tier list that has SS anyway. But she's a second-tier character. So if they add anything like that for Ashuro, that could be interesting, because Ashuro's got more of a generic type as a shot type character. Like there could be a world where they do shot and like crit or something like that. I don't know. Shot and attack. That could be interesting. Now, the problem with those is that you still want to have your lizards and fungals on a lot of characters. Those are basically the default sets for most characters. And so without that crit rate, but maybe there's a set effect in there that also increases that. So like that's where though we go down a path where that could wind up being the new set for a lot of characters, which is tedious. Oh my God, I hate this system. It is easily one of the worst equipment systems I've ever seen, and it's not close. It is the one. I'll just say it. It's probably just literally the worst. Yeesh, man. I can't say enough bad things about the Unipart system in this game. In terms of the way you acquire them, in terms of the way that the re-rolling process goes, in terms of the what's it called, the way that you can't unequip, and so if you want to try a different set on a character, you got to start from scratch, bro. Like it's, whoosh, man, it's bad. Anyway, new identified kaiju neutralization. I'm blanking on what that is. Maybe it's a new event we haven't seen before, but I'm blanking on what that is. It makes me think of Large Conquest, but we have one of those. So let me know in the comments down below. Oh, you know what that is actually? Actually, I'm pretty sure I know what this is. This is just the training area where you fight the identified kaijus, right? So, never mind. So what's happening here is whatever kaiju they use to make the Uniparts, so like armored, they use that new armored kaiju that they added with him, blah, blah, blah. For Spider set, they use the Spider. Like, you know what I'm saying? Whatever kaiju they're using these to make these Uniparts, then you can find that in its own event. Which means there's also another material added, so that's annoying. So Ashura will probably use whatever new material was added here. And I've been farming shot type gear, which she probably will also use too. But she's going to use whatever new material is added here. So that way, of course, I was almost prepared to push her all the way to max just from the rip. Because now I'm figuring out you got to start doing that stuff like a week out, bro. Especially like the basic ones, the Kaiju Might, the manuals. You got to start doing that stuff like a week and a half out. If you're me anyway. Like it's not feasible for everyone else to do that. But if you're me, because otherwise what winds up happening is these characters release and I'm sitting there for like an hour leveling up these characters, and I'm still going to spend 30 minutes even with all the resources because there's no like quick leveling or anything like that. See, like this game has a lot of things they can add. Anyway, So it still takes quite a while, but yeah, I have to start getting that jump on it. So they're adding that in, and again, it will have its own resource in there. That's typically what that's for. It's where you would go to find the wyvern wings, things like that. So that's all happening tonight. So that's a number of things. There's a new gacha. There's 2 new events. There's a Unipart. There's a story chapter. So that's a good amount of stuff, I'd say. The problem is, like I keep saying, is that people will be done with this by tomorrow. Because people are going to skip the story. Even though I think the story's fun. People are going to skip the story. They'll be done with that in 10 minutes. Maybe. And then Fierce Battle. And so that's where, like, them adding harder Fierce Battles lately, I've seen some pushback on that. People are, like, struggling with that. But it's not the worst thing because it slows us down, right? So I guess it is what it is. But yeah, and at the same time, if players want to skip all this stuff that they've got, like the story and stuff, that's supposed to take them maybe an hour of content. Like I don't know that we can blame the devs for that, but I do think that they, again, still need to find a balance. So tomorrow, they do this thing where they stagger the login bonus. So tomorrow you'll see the login bonus push through. They stagger it by like 14 hours instead of just giving everyone a 14-hour head start on day one's login bonus. When the character releases, they start it with the next login bonus at the normal login time. So it is what it is. And then on the 5th, so the week of the 5th, which is Wednesday, there's not really anything else happening other than new permanent Fierce Battle. So they're updating permanent Fierce Battle already, and they're adding in London. Oh wait, it says London. Is that going to be its own separate section, like starting from stage 1 again? That could be the case because there's a long list on the left side. Like there's several other slots, so that could be what that is. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the same thing. At the end of the day, it's the same thing. Which, by the way, I'm gonna track for this month. I'm gonna track the resources. So hold me to that if I happen to forget or whatever. But I always say that they add roughly 3 to 4 multis within a week or at the same week of the update. So like here's an example of that. If you look at the content coming tonight, there's all the gems that are going to be in the story. There's the gems that are going to be tied into the chapter event. You're going to get your first clear rewards for the new identified kaiju in the Uniparts. That's not anything fancy, right? But you'll get those regardless. And then there's also the limited Fierce Battle, which should have 800, I believe. So and then also there's technically the login bonus that'll start. The shops are refreshing too. That's not listed here. The shops will refresh with new tickets. So that's technically a part of this too. So yeah, when I say that, like, they add a handful of multis every couple weeks, it is what it is. It's just, if you are going to summon on everything, then you're never going to have anything to summon with. Right? That is what it is. That's not abnormal. That's normal for free-to-play games, for free-to-play players. So it is what it is. But they're doing that here too. But moving on, the 5th, the reason I brought up that whole like login thing is because that should be, a couple thousand gems in there. I'd have to go back and see if that is what I'm thinking, the initial. But the recent Fierce Battle update, the permanent one that was last update, gave out, I believe, 3,000 gems. So that's a couple multis in and of itself. We'll see what happens. Large Conquest, the event where Rin Shinonome blows it up. If you haven't built her up, you need to build her by the 11th. Maybe farm the resources. Because what if they make it to where it's like single target damage dealers? I don't know. Like, they could do something like that. I don't think so, but who knows? Maybe just farm the resources, which are universal, so there's no problem with that. But Shinonome blows that event up, and that's that mode, so check that out. They're increasing the player rank, so that's funny because I'm literally at like 69 and a half. 70 is the current cap, so I'm 69 and a half. So they're raising it again, so thank you. I didn't get to sit at max for very long. I'll get like a week, so thanks. Anyway, the reinforcement support login bonus. This is so they're gonna do another login bonus for jellies with gems every other day, and they're also gonna do the 2x training for Kaiju Might. And they're finally bringing back a raid. So this would be like a month and a half without a raid. It's probably because they ran that raid a second time after it died so quickly last time we had one. And they reset the rewards in there for the most part. I don't think they reset some of the rewards, but all the milestone rewards got reset. So they basically ran 2 raids back to back. And so that, I guess, slowed down the schedule. Because prior to that, it was a raid like every, 2.5, 3 weeks. So we're getting another raid here, so that's cool. But again, like I said, that's the update on the 14th. So throughout that week, looking at the 11th, there's a large conquest. There is the campaign for the login bonus, the training 2x for Kaiju Might, the player rank up as well, a raid battle. So large conquest and raid battle the same week within a few days. So there's stuff here. Like, you can clearly see they're trying. You can clearly see that they're trying, right? When you sit here and look at the content that's coming out and the dates, you can clearly see that they're trying, because there's no other reason for Fierce Battle to be releasing on Wednesday the 5th. Because that could easily get pushed to the next week if they wanted it to. There's no reason. That's literally there. And it's weird because it's a permanent update, and this is the first time they're updating permanent that fast. It's literally there because they're trying to give us something to do for that week. Because if they don't have anything there, there's literally nothing to do for like 2 weeks. Aside from the content that's releasing tonight, right? So they're trying. And then they tease the 20th as well as an update. So we'll see ultimately what winds up happening here. But like I said, the devs are trying. So that's all I can really say about that for now. And hopefully it all works out. I wanted to see some comments here. Most players just complain, never thankful. That is kind of true. That's kind of true. What about new character on November 7th after Narmi future site banner ends? That is not listed here. I guess there's a chance they stick a character in here somewhere, but I doubt it. I doubt that's going to happen. I would say in terms of characters, oh crap, they're pacing themselves to do this crap again, aren't they? Huh. There may be something around this raid battle. But otherwise, they're kind of pacing themselves to do the crap where it's 2 weeks off again, and then 2 consecutive gotchas. The same thing they did this month. Ay. That's not great. But maybe they just didn't want to tease the gotcha here. So maybe it's in here somewhere in this middle of the month period. We'll see. Like around like the 12th. Actually, around the 12th is a good spot for it, because that's basically 2 weeks. Close enough. So, because what it is that they wanted this update to extend on the 1st, but really this Ashiro stuff should have came out a couple days ago. It shouldn't be coming out on Friday. These games typically update on Tuesday, Wednesday. This is where, like I said, this game needs to stop doing crap like that. So that's kind of what they're doing here. It's not the biggest thing. It just throws off the schedule because you see they update on Wednesdays. Like, you see this. But they're doing that again. Anyway, and then there's a Thursday update for the 20th. So we'll see what happens ultimately, though. I'm going to get out of here. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hit that thumbs up, subscribe, let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.